Coming to you from sunny California and the Great White North. Get ready. We are breaking down the obstacles on the Armchair Ninja Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Armchair Ninja Podcast. It is Saturday, October 27th, 2018. My name is Rich, and joining me once again this week is Bijan. How are you making out?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm tired is the best way to put it. It's been a long day.
Yeah, you've been running on the treadmill for how long now?
Basically on the treadmill, I decided to, training for Tough Mudder. I did a half marathon today, or a little over it. I did 14 miles in 3 hours.
Nice. That was taking it easy, was it?
It's a little bit. I mean, I don't know. Everything hurts right now.
I gotta ask, actually, you mentioned Tough Mudder. I want to touch base with you and find out the rotator cuff. You said you hurt it. Is it better? How's it looking?
Aspirin and a lot of icing on the shoulder, man. It's fine. I gotta say it's a lot better than it was last week. I just basically am laying off any training, and healing it up as much as possible. By the time Tough Mudder comes, whether it's fully healed or not, I'm doing them obstacles, I ran a Tough Mudder with a dislocated knee. I think a messed up shoulder is going to be just fine.
Electroshock therapy is going to suck either way, I guess. So
yeah, do that Arctic enema where it's all ice, on the whole body, and it'll heal up just fine.
So this episode, we're going to switch things up a little bit because we liked ANW Junior so much, and everyone seemed to like the coverage of it. We're going to try to do both Ultimate Beastmaster and ANW Junior in the same episode, but at kind of like a higher level. So this is our attempting to cover two very great shows in a very condensed way. So let us know what you think afterwards. We definitely want to know your feedback.
Yeah, but overall, I'm really happy in terms of the feedback that we got over the past week. There's a lot of excitement in the ANW community about ANW Junior, and that's really cool. I'm really happy to see this thing taking off with the diehards, with the community, and I think we might have a hit on our hands, Rich.
I think so, and you know what completely sold me on it is I have to call out the fact that I went to watch the episode today, and my wife was in the room and just kind of decided to stick around for the episode. And she was into it. She was yelling. She sounded just like me through this episode. She's like, "Ooh, like, ow, oh my God, did you see that?" And yeah, totally sucked her in.
That's good, man. That's really good to hear. I like the fact that, even people that might be not kind of casual, I guess, viewers of A&W, something about this show draws them in just the same, Maybe it's the fact that there are kids running the course that, it's kind of like the parental vibe of it. But also a lot of kids, can relate to it. As we heard last week with Julia and everything, something about it made her want to watch it where she traditionally doesn't watch regular A&W.
Yeah. And what's funny with my wife, what drew her in was the racing aspect of which is kind of what got us as well is, if it was run like a traditional A&W course with little kids, I don't think we'd be tuning in quite so much, but watching them race against each other is exciting. It really draws you in much more. And, it was funny to hear her call out. She says, "Oh, this is more like Ninja versus Ninja," which she's never seen, but she's heard me babble on about enough that she knew what that was.
Nice.
So yeah, let's start with Ultimate Beastmaster, though. I think that's probably the more appropriate of the two.
Nah, man, we need to start with ANW Junior. I feel like more people are here to listen to ANW Junior.
All right,
because Ultimate Beastmaster, at this point it's been 2 months over watching. Like, people want to hear it, but I feel like more people want to hear ANW Junior. Maybe it's my opinion, but
no, I think you're probably right. I forgot it's been 2 months. Wow, we're like behind the times on that one.
It started in a weird time. Like, the previous 2 seasons started in the fall. This one started in the middle of A&W. And I apologize to David Broom and everybody, but it's like, look, priorities are priorities.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. ANW Junior. That works for me. Overall, I guess, very similar. The course, everything kind of ran along the same lines. Competitors were new, obviously. What stood out to you in this episode? What competitors or what obstacles? What do you think?
Well, I don't think we're going to get much variations in terms of changing of obstacles just because they do have three different, I guess, courses set per age range, right? Um, so I think the key to this show is going to be more so, obviously, the runs, but also the stories behind the children and what they present. I think that's really going to be the key. Man, I got to tell you, I hate criticizing the show and everything, but man, those mentor segments are rough. Like it's just it's kind of cringe. It's so forced. But luckily they're keeping it short. In terms of the things that really highlighted to me, I felt like this episode in particular had really, really strong runs. We had like 3 races of the children hitting that buzzer like almost within a second of each other. And that's always really fun to see.
Yeah, there was some really great races. I completely agree with that. The mentors thing, I was actually looking forward to it being better. There was comments on Twitter that, that the mentors are better this time around. Didn't seem that much better to me. It did kind of highlight them on the sidelines a little more, running along and cheering them on, which I liked. But yeah, I mean, the focus is the kids, and it should be. So it's hard to complain.
Yeah, it's like I can't complain too much, but I am interested. It sounds like there were some people that are more up on the mentors. I mean, maybe that's just a thing that I'm seeing. So if there is, do let us know. Maybe there's something I'm missing about the mentor aspect of it. But right now, it kind of feels like it's just a forced hammed in thing. And once again, it's not something where I'm really critical about. It's just out of all the good points of the show, that's kind of the low point for me.
To me, it's just the segments where they're about to take the course. That's what bothers me.
That's what I mean. Sorry. Exactly, Rich.
Yeah, when it cuts to Megan Martin and she was like, when she was emotional over Annalise making it up the wall and winning her race, that seemed genuine. That seemed real, and that seemed like a great mentoring moment, right? Where you're cheering them on, running along the course, and then when they make it and and finish and able to hit the buzzer, that's great. I think that's a very good thing. And we had Drew like cheering them on along the sides as they're running. So I mean, there were moments that worked, but it's that pep talk at the beginning that just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, very good point. 100% agree.
I was interesting. Caden Forche, the Chatterbox Ninja, his little segment there. He's training with Brian Arnold and Lauren Ball. Like some unexpected cameos we got. Like he has ADHD and he's up in the morning like wearing himself out before he actually runs the course. Like some of these little segments are great. Like I really get drawn in. The kids are at least as entertaining as adults, if not more.
Yeah, this was a very strong segment and a very personable kid. Had a lot of charisma, and it's somebody that you just can't help but root for, And good on him. I really could relate to his story because when I was young, I was also diagnosed with ADHD, and it's something where 100%, I went into sports just to like blow out all this crazy energy that I had. Maybe it explains a little bit of why I'm sometimes manic on this podcast. But seriously, like, it's fun to see this kid, tackling on, like talking about it, but being like, hey, I have a way of handling this. I'm just crazy in the morning and having fun.
If you found it easy to relate to him, I gotta tell you the Hans and his brother Harper story totally hit close to home with me. My younger brother has special needs, so growing up, very similar relationship where he would come watch me play baseball or soccer, that kind of thing, and their relationship was really touching. I really enjoyed that segment. My wife started crying through that segment. She's like, "They got me." I said, "I told you they get you. They always get you." And it didn't. That particular one didn't get me because I just found it heartwarming, I guess, more than sad, just because I could relate on such a personal level to the story, even though it's this little kid. Still very, very touching and very personal.
That's really awesome, man. And I'm glad that, some of these vignettes really touch other people in different ways. To me, it was just a segment because I can't relate to that. But to you and your wife, that was really touching. And that's awesome. For me, the highlight of the episode for me in terms of storylines, I forget her name, but the softball player, that girl was like so awesome, like just the way they showed her, right? She looks like this, like from the like they bring her in, and it's just a shadow figure, and she's this girl like bulky, muscular, just all kinds of tough, just looking bad A in all the right ways, right? And she's just like telling this awesome story, and she comes out talking about the fact that she doesn't look like all the other ANW people, she looks different, but that's okay. She can still rock it, and I don't know, just everything about that was also awesome. So I really like the fact that in this episode, we had a lot of different highlights, man.
We did. And she was great. Right from the beginning, I was like, oh, she better win. I was rooting her on from the beginning. I mean, yeah. It's production. A lot of it's production. She was great. But like you said, they really played her up. And I was like, if they are trolling me here, like, I really want her to do well. And she did. She ended up winning the whole thing for her age bracket, which was fantastic.
Yeah, that was awesome. Once again, they do a really good job of hyping up selective children that tend to do well. And if it could become a thing where you can see it ahead of time, being like, oh well, this is the person winning the episode. But I really don't think that's what really matters when it comes to this show. I think what really matters is presenting people that you can genuinely root for. Obviously, as a 30-year-old man that works with kids, I want everybody to do well in a way, but at the end of the day, this is a show and you really need to have the people really to root for. And she was one. All the credit in the world to all of her competitors, but she was the one I was rooting for so hard.
Yeah. I think I was probably rooting for her the most too. And Hans, the little boy with his brother, was actually the segment where I was getting annoyed that they focused on one person so much that it kind of televised who was going to win the matchup, and I was completely wrong because he lost his first round after they gave his segment. I went, oh well, there goes that theory. That's great. I don't want to know who's going to win just based on whether they got a segment or not.
Yeah, good point. I mean, at least the fact is that they will highlight people that don't necessarily win. I mean, I hate the fact I don't want him to not win, but right. You know what I mean.
Yeah, he did end up winning in the end, but I guess that particular matchup. So, yeah, as long as the order is mixed up a bit, they do tend to give everybody a segment, I think, pretty much.
Man. They tend to give one person a segment and the other person without. So, like, out of the 4 people running in each age bracket, I would say probably 2 get a segment, if that makes sense.
It seemed like maybe a couple people got skipped this time around, but overall, it seems like one of the 2 gets a segment on their first run, and then on the second one, whoever didn't on the first time around, it was the other person. You know what I mean? Like they kind of switch it up. So that covers off most of them. I think there were still a couple that got skipped, but pretty much everybody got at least a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, overall, great episode. Lots of very close races, as you said. I think this was even a more solid episode than the first one.
I would say that, yeah. I forget the name of the kid, but there was this kid with wild hair. He was, I think maybe African-American, but I could be wrong. But it was this taller, like, boy with wild hair. And this kid, like, I think he was in the middle age bracket, right? So there was a peg on the warped wall for them to, like, grab onto. And he just does the whole warped wall every single run he's in. I mean, That kid was awesome, dude. I was rooting for him, and he never got a segment, so I don't really know much about him. But I gotta say, big shout out to that guy.
And that's funny. That was the one kid I was thinking, oh, maybe they didn't all get a segment because he didn't. I definitely know he stood out so much to not get a segment. It was weird because, he won his first race, I believe. And like you said, he's skipping over the notch, right? They have a notch at the 11.5-foot mark, I think, for his age category. And he's just grabbing the top of the 13-foot wall, like no issues.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. Oh, and once again, we have multiple girls completing the warped wall, which I am really thumbs up about.
Yeah, winning multiple races. Annalise winning the whole bracket for the 13-14 bracket at that. We kind of expected in the 11-12 for the girls to dominate. But yeah, 13-14, that's great.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish all the boys luck and everything, but a part of me really hopes, and I apologize to all the boys out there, I really want all women winners when it comes to the end of this thing. How dope would that be? I don't know why, but I just really want it to happen.
Oh, that reminds me. Do you remember last week there was I can't remember her name now, Elsa maybe,
Hmm.
the in the 11-12 bracket, who was so much taller than the other competitors.
Yeah.
There was a lot of salty comments on YouTube about that and how unfair that was, if you can imagine.
Really?
Yeah.
What is there salty about? What, like, isn't it the thing where, like, most of the female, I'm sorry, I've been standing around a lot of the female competitors on ANW proper. Like, a lot of them are between the height of 5'4" and 4'11. Okay? Like, you don't see people salty about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was such a weird thing to see. I'm like, really? Now you're going to complain about the unfair height advantage that we've been watching on ANW for years now? Like, no, there is no way you do not, take away that one time that the women have, or the girls have an advantage. You're going to get mad because that's not fair. Are you
It's not
kidding
even
me?
it could be an advantage, but height doesn't necessarily, like, mean that you're going to win.
Yeah.
It's about technique. Somebody that's shorter just has enough chances. As a matter of fact, when we saw it on this episode, there was a point where there was a ring swing, right? And there was the kid that was taller, and it took him longer to swing from one to the other because his laches take longer. It's hard to describe, but if you see it, you know what I mean. When you're shorter, you can just do smaller swings. Now, you can have an advantage if you have the wingspan to skip a rung, right? But on this course, those kids aren't going to have that. So, it doesn't necessarily compute. Being longer means you have to take longer to swing and various other things, okay? So it's whatever. And once again, I'm trying not to get triggered, so no way in all heck I am going on them YouTube comments. Nope, not going to happen.
Yeah, I definitely got triggered myself. Reading those comments, I was like, I am not going to start arguing with a bunch of little kids on here. YouTube comments are bad enough already. Just letting it die. No. But we have a podcast, so we can rant on here.
Those gosh darn kids, they don't know.
So yeah, great episode. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you do. ANW Junior is on Universal Kids and or Family Channel if you are in Canada.
And on the YouTube page. And I'm very thankful that it's on YouTube. So if you can, link it in the notes again, man. It's really fun to watch.
So moving on to Ultimate Beastmaster, we have episodes 2 and 3, continuing on with the new and improved format. I don't know. I'm still not sold on the points not carrying over thing.
Well, I don't care for him, to be perfectly honest with you. But, I'm gonna, moving forward, I made it a point to myself where it's like, I can't just harp on that. It's there. It's a new format, and I'm gonna give it a chance. And that's only fair to do, right? Because maybe in the long end, it will work out. And maybe it's just something where, we're all like, oh, change is bad, blah, blah, blah. So I'll wait and I'll reserve my ultimate judgment till the very end when I look back and reflect on this season. I said opening remarks, just thinking about it, I didn't like it. But I went into this episode not trying to harp too much on that and really tried to enjoy the episodes for how they were. And I felt they were far more enjoyable that way. When I like try to keep my mind out of the format and just really enjoy what the show is, where it's like the storylines and the runs and the fun with the hosts and everything like that. I had a fun time.
I had an okay time. I'm having a little struggle with this season. I don't know. Maybe it's me being, a little hurt over this rule change. I don't like the dynamics that it kind of creates, and I'm not getting the competitors that really draw me in as much as I want. I gotta say, and some of the course change, I don't know. Just overall, I'm not getting overly sold in this season. Not to bring down the episode here, but. Yeah, I don't know. It's a little off for me. I've had little shining moments, so we'll try to focus on those, I guess.
Yeah. Overall, for me, I enjoy these episodes, but I do have one major criticism, and we'll get to that in a bit.
Okay, so we'll do it episode by episode, kind of. Looking at for episode 2 here, they had an obstacle called wheel power.
Yeah, they changed the course up just a little bit, and I don't know. I liked wheel power far more. Like, I feel like, the changes in course 1 or in stage 1, however you want to call it, far more difficult, which I enjoy, than, the previous iteration of it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was like drastically different, I thought, or more difficult, I thought. This wheel power thing is kind of like Rolling Thunder, Rumbling Dice style obstacle, but very reach dependent, I thought. And I don't know, it was a good obstacle, but almost broken, right? Almost so difficult that it made it impossible. So we had like a lot of failures even before it. I don't know. And I'm finding the level of competitors or the level of the course has drastically changed because we're not getting a lot of finishes and we're getting some weird results.
Yeah, I mean, having a course that competitors can't finish isn't necessarily a bad thing, in my opinion. The bigger issue is, once again, I don't want to make this a point, but when you have a much harder course, format matters, and making the points that you work so hard to have, all those erased in stage 2. I mean, what's the point, right?
Yeah.
but that said,
no, I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you here, but I think it's harping to make that a big part of this because that is exactly it. So you watch someone exhaust themselves on this obstacle. That would be perfectly fine if they were accumulating points at that point and it mattered going forward. Someone who falls on the second or third obstacle has just saved a bunch of energy for the next level with no consequence whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fault of the show and it's a fault of the format, and I really hope the people behind the show aren't dumb, and I'm sure they just wanted to try something new, and maybe they learned from this. I at least hope they did. I mean, I can't imagine they didn't. I didn't mind the obstacle as much as you did. I found it very, visually there. And I did like the struggle that a lot of these competitors put into doing it. There is a technique. You have to use momentum. It's very momentum based. But it's kind of one of those things that we've had where it's like, once you lose your momentum, though, you're dead in the water. And we saw towards the end that, like, a competitor kind of went back to the previous rung and kind of, like, swung it. So there is a way of, like, building that momentum up again. But I feel like the one thing that we're just not seeing is the weight involved on this particular rolling obstacle. And I have to imagine it's pretty dang heavy. So I'm sure a lot of competitors had really tough time doing it. I don't know. It was cool. Stage 1 was fine for me.
Yeah, they did try to sell the reason for carrying on, which I think is the bigger problem with not having the points carry forward, is that why keep going, right? If you're the last runner, once you get to a certain point, just jump off. Australian Jaden Irving was the last runner and finished the whole thing for really no discernible reason. They sold it as being for better placement for the next round, which kind of makes sense. He gets to run later. So, I mean, that is something at least to make it worth going a little further. Maybe not to the end of the course, but at least further than everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, at least there's something, but it doesn't translate as much to the advantage that you have. I don't feel like this show really correlates with it being like, oh, I'm the last one running. That means I have such a strong advantage and I worked so hard to get this. I feel like there's still something. And I don't know, maybe it could be something like, rather than having all your points reset or keeping all of it, maybe you only get half the points that you earned last run. I don't know. I feel like there's something there where there could be something better for all the points that you earned in the former stages. That said, is this the episode where they built up, like, it was two particular runners? I think it was South Korea and was it Brazil or something like that?
That was probably my favorite part of the episode.
It was awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. So explain what happened, man.
So the South Korean competitor, Jabi Kim, was really built up as like the hope for South Korea, and the Brazilian competitor was built up, and it was like this big rivalry between the two, right? And it would be a rematch of the finale of season 1, right? Those two countries faced off in the finale. So it was really built up to be, these are the two guys to watch. And I get the impression that it wasn't just for the show, I guess, because the competitors themselves, or the audience and everybody else and the hosts, were really high up on these two competitors. And they both fell on the second obstacle, like very, very early on in the course, and just completely got me. I had no idea it was coming. I thought for sure. The first one, I laughed because I was like, oh, you got me. And I thought, okay, well, we'll see the other guy and how he does. And he fell in the exact same place.
It was amazing, man. I'm sorry, I'm going to be that guy, but the second obstacle in Ultimate Beastmaster is not as difficult as the second obstacle on, the LA qualifiers of American Ninja Warrior. Just saying. So, I'm looking at this and I'm like, do you guys, what happened here? They just mistimed their jump, but I don't know. It's like this particular obstacle has been there from the previous season, and it's pretty self-explanatory of how to do it. I don't know how you mistime the jump on this thing.
I honestly feel like I could make it that far. I really feel like if I was on Ultimate Beastmaster, that first obstacle doesn't really look like much of an obstacle, and that transition is the hard part. So, I mean, it's pretty much the equivalent of falling off the steps in ANW.
Yeah, I don't know. It's, as you said, it's really the stage one comes into play when it comes to jumping to the chain or whatever it is, That was a shocker, but that was kind of the point of the story, right? Nobody expected them to fall right there, and they did.
Yeah, it was good. It was entertaining. It woke me up. I was like, hey, there we go. That's the kind of thing you want. And the hosts were pretty good through the episode, I have to say, to be
pretty
fair.
Pretty good? Dude, they were dope. Especially, once again, my main man, Francesco, or Francisco, whatever it is. That dude, I love him to death. Oh man, I wanted more South Korea, but their guy fell at the beginning. But man, they were dope too. I love the hosts. By the way, various rivalries going on with the hosts. They're building up some storylines once again, which I love. We have Italy versus France just once again, and I love everything about them. Italy is like, oh, those French people, they're wishing us luck, but really they just want to stab us in our backs and all this stuff.
One of the stories that did stand out in this episode, one of the runs, was David Ferguson from Britain. Very unique looking guy, all covered in tattoos, very gruff.
Well, he's a kickboxer, but the thing is that he has two twin boys, and he both of them wear the mohawk that he has, and everything about this guy, from the offset, from the visual aspect, he kind of looks threatening, covered in tattoos. He looks like a fighter. He is a fighter, like an actual professional fighter, all this stuff. But he's the most sweetest, humble guy in the world, and has a really interesting backstory about losing his mother, I believe it was, and I don't know. I really love the fact that he was so personable, 100% the opposite of how he looks. And I hate even judging somebody based on that, but it's just the point of the story, And I was really rooting for this guy. He kind of came off almost like an underdog, because there was a story of the Australian guy who's just great at everything, won the stage one and everything like that. And then there's this guy who, through the entirety of the episode, he had an injury with his shoulder, and it got progressively worse. And everybody was wondering if he was going to be able to continue. And I just love the fact that he kept persevering, and kept no, don't take me out. I want to keep continuing. I love this about the guy, and he was the highlight of the entire episode for me.
Yeah, he was falling into the water, managed to pull himself up twice from a position that it looked like he was completely done on level 3. His shoulders all taped up by that point. Very, very good, interesting run, and the kind of thing that we need for the show to work.
Yeah, his stage 3 run was amazing. It was probably, in my opinion, the most invigorating. In my opinion, it was the best run of the season so far. And it's low praise because we've only had 3 episodes, but I'm just saying, I really, really enjoyed it. It looked like he was out multiple times, and he kept fighting through, including with an injured shoulder. And literally right now, I can relate to that. So, I really felt for the guy, and I just wanted him to push through. Every time you thought he was out, he kept pushing forward. He kept going, and it was all hard. And that's what I want to see the most out of these competitors. And I loved it. Great story. Great perseverance, great heart, and I'm so happy he moved on. I mean, what an amazing story. And in many ways, one of my biggest criticisms is that we don't necessarily have a winner of an episode. And even though, there are 2 people moving on, he was one, and everybody counted him out. And so really, by the end of the episode, they the Great Britain hosts gave a crown and put it on him. And really, they interviewed him. It was really his story, his triumph, and he was the guy that won the episode.
Yeah, I got confused. Like, I mean, we just watched it last week, but I already forgot. So, Australia, that guy was pretty, really solid. He was, like you said, the odds-on favorite as the episode was going on, and he was just continuing on, even though he made it. He was just wearing himself out before the finals. My notes were like, dude's gonna be like exhausted when we move on to level 4, and then it cuts to them like wrapping them in flags and cheering them on. I'm like, it's a little premature, isn't it? And then I remembered, oh wait, yeah, 2 finishers. Never mind. It's fine, I guess.
So, this might be my biggest criticism of the show is the fact that, if we don't have Stage 4, it's more dependent on the three previous stages, right, Rich? And the problem is that I have with the show is Stage 2 is a 100% DOA. I respect the fact that they tried, but when it comes to Stage 2, the pacing completely drops off a cliff. At the beginning of this stage, after the first transition, where it's like this trampoline thing, the competitors have to stop and basically hang off the side of something to basically put their foot down on a point thruster. And everybody goes for it, and you're literally just standing there watching somebody hang from a ledge for almost 30 seconds. There's no, I'm not invigorated. I'm not like gasping. I'm not holding my breath because I don't care. Anybody can do that. I can do that, and it's whatever. And then from there, the entire pace of the stage is just so completely slow. There's a tube component, like you just jump down on a pad and then you go through a tube. I forget the name of it, but we've seen that before where the stakes were higher in previous seasons. And now you're jumping to these treadmills called dreadmills. And the problem is that in this season, we've seen the same instance of everybody going onto it where they just grab the sides of it and hang on and try to get onto it. It's slow. It's not the proper way that the people behind the show want them to tackle it. There's just no pacing. It's so slow and it's so boring, unfortunately. I don't care. And I think that's the biggest problem is that Stage 2 is literally 1/3 of the episode. And there's just, it's not something I enjoy watching.
Yeah, it is jarringly back and forth. It's the pacing, exactly. The pacing is completely out of whack. I don't know, I like the digestive tract. It's an interesting, kind of iconic obstacle for the course, to be honest. It really stands out. It's kind of anxiety inducing because it's sinking into the water at the back end where they're trying to climb up this thing. It seems dangerous, but there's something off. Like in previous seasons,
the dreadmills.
Well, yeah, the dreadmills are bad, but it seems like they've accelerated the pace or started it lower. Everybody that comes out of that tube is too low to jump onto it and just start running like you want them to. Right?
The key is that previous seasons, the dreadmills, you had to jump from the digestive tract and they were higher. You had to be high enough to jump onto it and keep running, which means the pace is still there. You're constantly moving forward. In every single instance of these dreadmills, that transition, you just jump and then you grab the side of the dreadmills because you're so low and half your body's in the water and you just hang there and you slowly try to pull yourself up. And I noticed in these episodes, the dreadmill actually stops at a certain point. The pacing's gone. There's no movement. I don't know. That's the problem that I have.
Expert design suggestion here. Have a rope, have a bar, for them to jump to and grab, and then they have to swing from that onto the dreadmills. That way they can get the height they need. And if they don't get out of the thing fast enough, they're going to be too low and have to climb up higher before they make that transition over. That way they can hit it with their feet and still get punished for being too low on the obstacle. Love
it, man. Yeah. Everybody, hire Rich. He's got the ideas.
Something. You got to fix that transition because it sucks the energy out of level 2 completely.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the competitors, I have no problem with the competitors. Australia and Britain's competitors were great. They're fine to move on. We'll see how they do in the semifinals.
Yeah. Fun episode. And I enjoyed it. And, it sounds like I'm criticizing a lot, but at the end of the day, for me, it's the storylines, it's the competitors, it's the hosts. And once again, AA+ when it comes to the hosts of this show, and they really made it fun.
Yeah, I'd give it I'll be generous and say a 6. We'll say a weak 6. But moving on to episode 3, which I did like a little bit better. I definitely like this obstacle. We had an interesting obstacle added here, the rope burn. What did you think of this one?
This looked hard. and it's not like the other one where I can understand if you had an issue with I forget the name already, but that twirling obstacle that we had in the previous episode, right? From stage 1. This one, it's doable, but damn does it look hard, man. Describe it for everybody, because I'm terrible at describing obstacles.
Sure. Imagine there was like a sewer pipe hanging up overhead and you had to throw a skipping rope over it and make your way down it.
I love it. But on that pipe, it's not smooth. There's grooves in like every, I don't know, like foot or so.
So yeah, they've got to kip up and skip the rope over those grooves. And then halfway down it drops 2 feet and widens out. Nobody actually did it, did they?
No, not only does it widen out, but there's also a groove right at the bottom of that. So as soon as you slide down, it stops your momentum and you have to hold yourself up. And I think that's what got everybody, is they slid down, like they're already forcing themselves over. They slide down, jump down, and they instantly stop all momentum. So it basically shoots out from underneath them.
It's a great obstacle.
I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like maybe like a salmon ladder, where it's just jarring and it stops on you. It's kind of like that.
Yeah. Good obstacle. I like that one for sure.
Love it. And they're like, I don't know, it kind of looked like bungees that they're holding on to, but it's like a rope on both sides. Like, that thing looks impossible, bro. Like,
the handles were bent too, and they're like a banana hold type deal.
I think it was just bungees. I think it was just the way they're holding it, but I could be wrong. I'd have to look back.
Yeah, I know one of the guys, once they jump onto it, once they get their grip on it, it's almost impossible to readjust yourself. So one of the guys actually grabbed the two of them together with one hand so he could adjust up the other hand. Like, it was kind of crazy.
That was really intuitive. I really like that. I mean, that was smart thinking on that guy's part. And not to mention, this, for stage 1, you have to jump like from a far distance onto this like chain. And we've seen every single season, it just completely destroys the skin on everybody's palms. So you go straight from that to this kind of obstacle. I mean, ooh, that's got to be painful.
Yeah. Favorite competitor by far. Italy had a 5'5" bearded artistic gymnast dude who juggles fire named
He's
Elvis.
So dope.
He is like the best competitor ever.
And what was more perfect is the fact that he's part of Team Italy, which means we have the greatest host just cheerleading this guy on. Everything about this was perfect. This guy was like such an underdog. Like, when you put him next to these other guys, like, he was small, he was short, but also kind of small, and he wasn't kind of built like the other guys, because there were some built dudes on this episode.
Oh my god, yeah.
But like, this guy kind of just looked like an everyday guy, and but he just kept on persevering. And Team Italy, like, every time he'd run, Francisco would be like standing on the from his overhang of whatever it's called. Like, this guy's gonna fall when he stays. Everybody's scared for this guy's life because he's absolutely insane, and I love it, every moment of it. And this guy's just, I don't know, the way they're cheerleading this guy on, it was so perfect.
Yeah, he was really great. Really stood out in the crowd. Him and 2 other competitors I thought really stood out. One is the British dude who looked terrified through the entire course.
For me, it was kind of a gimmick, but it was funny as all heck. There was this guy that always was doing well, right? But like, his eyes or something about him. I don't know if he was scared of heights. I don't know if he was scared of water, but this guy did not want to fall. It was like, I don't even know how to describe it, but like, you could tell like this guy was going to do anything possible not to fall into that water.
I don't know if it was that. I kind of took it as stage fright, to be honest, at the beginning. I don't know, maybe that was totally off, but there's something that was throwing him off. He said it was concentration, but I agree with, was it Anderson Silva? I think it was like, if that's concentration, I'd hate to see what fear looks like, basically. So that made it entertaining, just watching his facial expressions as he did really well on the course, like extremely well. Mm-hmm. And we got a chance to see, I can't remember the name of it, the twisty turn thingy I love that obstacle though. There's one that's they really have to kind of twist themselves in pretzels, going around these different holds, brace themselves between some glass.
Oh, and
panes.
Stage 2.
Yeah, that was great.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he was the only one that did that too. He looked terrified. All that.
Well, that's the thing, right? In the first episode, everybody failed on the treadmills, and everybody except him failed them in the. So I mean, not only are the treadmills a bad obstacle with a bad
They're
transition.
Dreadful. I see what I did there.
They also prevent us from seeing a really good obstacle that comes afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if we didn't see that next season. And I understand. There's some people are going to be like, well, it's iconic, that tube. I always forget its name, but to the treadmills. And as you said, I mean, there are things that you can do to make it better.
Yeah, fix the transition, and the treadmills wouldn't be that bad. And the last competitor that I need to mention is the Jesse Graff clone that they flew in for this episode.
Oh my God, I'm glad. I thought I was the only one.
That is insane. That I feel like I need to. I did post the picture as you requested of me next to the beardy dude from ANW Junior last time.
Judge for yourselves, guys.
But this Jesse Graff thing is uncanny.
Mm-hmm. Just the facial aesthetic of I don't know the woman's name, but she looks so much like Jesse Graff. It's crazy.
Her speech pattern. It's not even just like her appearance. It's everything. Like she really feels like. Like she's a stunt double for Jesse Graff.
What if it is Jesse Graff and they just didn't want to put her as the interview?
No, because Jesse Graff would not go out how she ended up going out. But
that's true.
But yeah, interesting episode. A few more interesting characters, as you can hear in my tone. I enjoyed this one a little more for sure.
Yeah, it was a fun episode, and for me, I got to give a shout out to, I don't know his name, but the competitor from America in this episode. I mean, he had a really interesting story of he was adopted, and he had, 32 siblings? And you get all of these adorable pictures of him growing up with his family. And he's such a happy-go-lucky guy, doing all these dancing and flips and stuff. Very charismatic dude. So I was really rooting for him also, because he's, for me, if you're a smiling, really happy person, I just enjoy it. I connect with that, so I was really rooting for a lot of the competitors on this episode. Maybe that was the key, that there was a lot of, likable people, so to speak. And once again, the hosts were having fun, messing with each other. Just overall, it was very fun to watch. And not to mention, in the third stage, right, you have 4 competitors and only 2 can move on. The first 2 competitors kind of fail at the beginning. So it was there was that tension to see if the other competitors would be able to move forward more. And you get to the third competitor and you think he's going to pass the other guys because they really didn't get far, and he fails almost immediately. And you're like, oh my God, are we going to see everybody fail early on? The stakes were really high. I really enjoyed that.
Well, it's weird, right? Because when they get on that track, whatever it's called, if they go for the point thruster, they basically send themselves into a spin that seems to guarantee failure, more or less. I haven't seen very many people
go for that. I would never go for it in my life.
Yeah, it seems like they can't recover from it very well. They if you haven't seen it, or if you forgot, if you watched it 2 months ago, they're sliding along on this railing, holding onto a rope-like thing, and they have to kick the point thruster. Well, when they do, they start spinning on the rope, and you have to get the transition when you get down there, or you're pretty much done.
I got a question for you. Do you think we're ever going to see the end of stage 3 on this season? Because I got to call it, I don't think we are. I don't think there's any reason for any of the competitors to do that.
We will. Oh, do they think they're just going to drop off? Because why complete the stage when it doesn't matter?
Yeah.
I think we'll see it in the semifinals. I think we won't see it in this round.
That's a good point. Also, next episode, we're going to see the semifinals. I'm very curious. What if in the semifinals, everything's cumulative? I'm curious what changes they're going to make for that.
Yeah, I don't know. It should be interesting. I hope it fixes some of the stuff. But yeah, I have hopes for later in the season. I feel like these preliminaries are the ANW equivalent of city qualifiers, where it's whatever.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, there was some weird falls, and a German dude face planted coming off the trampoline.
Oh my God, I forgot.
I literally yelled when that happened, like, ow. Like, there's a trampoline on an angle. You have to jump onto it and launch over this platform. Dude did that with his face.
It was amazing in all the wrong ways. Like, the spring, like, basically launched him like a missile face first into the pad. It was bad to see, but hey, it was good television.
Yeah, and Jesse Graff's clone launched to the left of the platform, basically.
Yeah, she just went flying.
But yeah, good episode. I honestly didn't even note who won this episode. The British dude did, I'm pretty sure, right? He was the terrified looking guy.
Yeah, terrified guy definitely made it because he was killing it the entire course. Other than that, I don't necessarily remember. I don't know.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, we need the personalities. Elvis did not make it because I knew as soon as I saw that guy's name how his night was going to end with someone going, Elvis has left the building. Like, it just had to be said, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. That wasn't the issue. I was just so in love with Francisco the whole time.
Yeah. So I was disappointed. I really wanted to see him move on because he had a great personality, great story, he's interesting to watch.
Mm-hmm. But at this point, I got to say, I think there might be one American finalist going in to the semifinals. But man, I want to see more from Team South Korea. They are my peeps.
Are we really hitting semifinals next week? That doesn't sound right to me.
So they do. There's two sides of the bracket, and they're doing one of the first side of the bracket already next season. Next episode. And I feel like that's a good idea. It keeps the show moving. You know, I would hate to see both sides at the end where they front load the ending. So basically, there were the 3 episodes. There's going to be 6 episodes of, qualifiers altogether. They're doing the left hand side already. So we're going to see the finalist or semifinal, however they do that next episode. Huh. So next episode, man, going to be fun. I'm excited.
All right. So speaking of episodes, that is it for our episode. If you like this format, please let us know. We tried to make it quick. We actually ended up a fairly long episode as it is because there's 3 episodes we're trying to cover. But yeah, hit us up. Let us know. You can reach me as rich@ninjapodcast.com. I am at Ninja Podcast on both Instagram and Twitter. And Bijan, how can they reach you?
Hit me up at Instagram and Twitter at Bijan151. That is Bijan 151. Leave the saltiness at home, y'all.
All right. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a great week.
Peace, love, and deuces. Francisco, I love you. Mwah.